The night's ink had swallowed everything. Thunder roared across the sky, and heavy rain pounded the earth. Cold winds drove through the trees like knives. This was a stormy night, the kind when no living soul dares to step outside, except for old man Thomas, the gravekeeper of the village's ancient cemetery. In his weather-worn shack, Thomas sat by the fire, his white beard long, face carved by deep wrinkles. For decades, he had watched over the graves alone, and he had seen strange things. But tonight, a fear unlike any he had known clutched his heart. Shortly earlier, someone in the village had died, and despite the storm, Thomas had dug the grave. Now, exhausted, he sat inside when a scream tore through the darkness. Such a scream that his blood froze. He listened. Maybe it was the wind, but no, it came again, louder, echoing across the cemetery. His heart racing, he lit his lantern, hoisted his spade, and stepped into the storm. Rain struck his face like arrows. Lightning briefly lit the scene. Twisted branches, crumbling tombstones, shadows dancing like ghosts. He followed the screen toward a freshly filled grave. And then he saw her. A tall, horrifying witch stood above the grave. Her hair wild and tangled, claws stained with blood, eyes glowing like embers. She ripped at the corpse, desperate to claim something from it. Thomas's legs shook, but he steadied himself. "Who are you? What are you doing?" he shouted. The witch turned slowly, her laughter piercing the night. "You dare challenge me, mortal? I am hungry. This soul is mine." He braced himself and started reciting words of power. The witch's form began to waver, smoke rising from her body. A screen like metal on stone echoed. The earth seemed to tremble. The words struck her. She thrashed but could not touch him. Finally, with a scream that seemed to shake the heavens, she dissolved into a shadowy mist. Silence returned, broken only by the storm. Thomas covered the grave again, placed a heavy stone atop it. Exhausted, he returned to his cabin, relieved, but oblivious that evil had only been delayed. On the next night, the witch came back. The clouds rolled in again. Wind howled through the cemetery. Shadows stretched like claws among the tombstones. Thomas sat by the fire, memories of the prior night haunting him. Suddenly, the door burst open. A gust of icy air swirled in. There she stood, even more terrifying. Eyes like burning coals, smoke curling around her, an aura of pure malice. "Did you think you could escape me, old man?" she hissed. "Tonight, your soul will be mine." Thomas raised his words of power again, his voice rilling. But the witch was stronger now. Her claws lunged, but he held firm. In a desperate battle, she vanished, leaving the cabin shrouded in darkness. The village mourned Thomas, unaware of the real horror. They assumed it was old age and bitter winter. A young man named Michael became the next keeper. He was strong, rational, unafraid. He dismissed the tales as superstition and began his work. On the fourth night, Michael sensed something shift. A chilling breeze brushed past him, though all windows and doors were closed. Footsteps creaked behind him. He lit his lantern and saw a shadow. Thomas's ghost. Who are you?" Michael stammered. "I am Thomas, the keeper of this cemetery." Suddenly the ghost twisted into the witch once more, eyes burning, claws thrashing, the air thick with fire and smoke. Michael opened his book of power and began reciting the words. The witch advanced, but divine power protected him. After a fierce struggle, she vanished. Realizing the danger was beyond human strength, the villagers summoned Father Daniel, a spiritual guide. He sensed the witch's strength and told them, "This is no ordinary evil. She thrives on revenge, but with unity and faith, she can be defeated." Father Daniel arrived the next morning. He was a tall, calm man in his early 60s, known across the region for confronting dark forces. His eyes were sharp, yet kind, eyes that had seen battles not of this world. The villagers gathered anxiously as he stepped into the graveyard, slowly scanning the ground like someone reading an ancient book. He kneeled beside the disturbed grave, placed his hand on the soil, and closed his eyes. "It's strong," he muttered. "This spirit has fed on fear for years. You were lucky, Michael." Michael nodded, still shaken. She wasn't just a ghost. It felt like rage had taken shape. Father Daniel stood. That's exactly what she is. Rage, grief, vengeance. She's bound to this place, maybe to a soul that was buried wrongly, or to a curse no one remembers. The villagers followed as Father Daniel inspected the cemetery. "We'll need a full protection circle. Every corner of this ground must be marked. Salt, symbols, fire, and unity. No one steps inside alone after nightfall." Understood. The town worked tirelessly that day. Salt was poured along the outer rim of the graveyard. White chalk markings appeared on trees and tombstones. Candles flickered as night approached. Tensions ran high. Children were kept indoors. Windows were shuttered. Some villagers wanted to flee, but Father Daniel told them, "If we leave, she follows." Inside the cemetery, Father Daniel prepared the main circle, a large ring of ash and oil surrounding the grave where the witch had last appeared. Wooden stakes with carvings were planted at its edges. Every word he spoke felt like it charged the air. As darkness fell, the village held its breath. The village elder, a woman in her 80s, gathered the children before the final battle. Her voice, cracked with age, trembled as she told them the legend of the witch. "Long ago, there was a healer who lived on the edge of this forest. She knew herbs, potions, and how to mend wounds. But the villagers grew afraid of her. One night, they blamed her for a famine. They dragged her here and buried her alive in an unmarked grave. Her soul twisted in rage. The healer's spirit returned as something else, a witch, born from injustice, trapped between life and death. She doesn't want just revenge. She wants to be remembered. She wants fear to carry her name forever." 2 days before the final battle, Michael found something while clearing brush from a neglected part of the cemetery. It was a grave with no stone, no name, just a rotted wooden cross snapped in half. Beneath it, strange markings had been etched into the soil. Not letters, not symbols, scratches like fingernails clawing upwards from below. He called Father Daniel, who studied the soil with a furrowed brow. "This wasn't made from outside," he said. "This came from within." Michael's blood ran cold. That night, the unmarked grave sank an inch deeper. No one touched it, no rain had fallen. But by morning, the soil was cracked wide open, like something had escaped. Father Daniel marked it and warned the others. This was her first resting place, the one the villagers tried to forget. Her curse didn't begin with her death. It began the moment she was betrayed. The village was dead silent. Every candle was lit. Salt lines were reinforced. Father Daniel stood in the center of the cemetery, surrounded by villagers murmuring protective chants. The graveyard felt like a place between worlds. Suddenly, the wind dropped. Everything became unnaturally still, and then the sky screamed. A deafening shriek burst from the unmarked grave. The earth trembled. From the cracked soil, a black mist erupted, twisting, swirling, forming into the tall, dreadful figure of the witch. She was no longer just a shadow. Her form flickered between flesh and smoke, her hair writhing like serpents, eyes aflame with fury. "You tried to bury me?" she shrieked. "You tried to forget me, but I remember everything." She lunged at the villagers. Trees bent backwards as if recoiling from her, but the circle held. The salt line burned bright like fire. She roared, clawing at the invisible barrier. Father Daniel raised his staff and shouted the final invocation. Symbols on the stakes ignited. The air cracked with energy. He flung a handful of sacred ash toward her. It struck her chest like a boulder. She screamed, a scream so loud the ground seemed to shake. But she didn't fall. She laughed. "You think I can be banished so easily? I am what you made me. I will haunt every stone of this cursed land." Suddenly, Michael stepped forward, holding a worn locket he had found near the unmarked grave. "This was hers," he said. "She wasn't evil, not until the village turned on her." He placed the locket at the edge of the salt circle. The witch paused. For the first time, her form faltered. Her scream softened into a groan, pain, not rage. Father Daniel whispered, "She needed to be remembered, not feared." The witch looked down at the locket. Her claws lowered, her flaming eyes dimmed, and then, slowly, her form began to unravel, not in anger, but in surrender. The mist lifted upward, her figure fading like breath on glass. A final whisper escaped her lips. "Thank you." And she was gone. The sky cleared. For the first time in decades, stars twinkled above the cemetery. A calmness settled, not silence of death, but peace. The villagers stood together, awed and relieved. They marked the unmarked grave with a real stone. No name, just one line. She was wronged, but now she rests. Father Daniel stayed one more night. Then he left, his mission complete. Michael remained the caretaker, Every evening he lit a lantern by the unmarked grave, not out of fear, but respect. No screams were ever heard again. And from that night forward, the cemetery was no longer a place of curses, but of memory.